My name's Andy Dickinson. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Central Lancashire, which is in the northwest of the United Kingdom. I'm also a blogger. I have a blog, andydickinson.net, which is kind of how I find myself at the DNA conference.
Yes, can you maybe talk a little bit about the blog post you wrote that got you here?
Yes, I wrote a post called Newspaper Video Will Die in 2008, which was one of the, a bit of a tradition in the blogging thing seems to be New Year's resolutions and New Year predictions, and so that was one of my New Year predictions, and it was kind of necessarily provocative, I think, partly because, bloggers like hits and that's the way to get hits, but also because I did honestly believe what I said in the post, which was unless people kind of seriously start to think about this in a more strategic way, then it will die because it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. It doesn't work because if you don't invest in it properly, it's never going to work, so then it dies, So that's why I wrote the post.
Yeah. What to you is the right way to invest in it properly?
Whatever's right for the organisation. That's the key thing. I think what a lot of organisations are doing are looking at what other people are doing. So they're saying, okay, that video work, you're doing it this way and that works for you, and you kind of look like us as an organisation. We look at ourselves and we've got 12 local newspapers and stuff like that, and you've got maybe 6. So we look about the same. So let's do it the same, and that's not going to work. If that logic followed, then everybody's newspaper would look the same, everybody would follow the same news and that kind of stuff. And it isn't driven by that, it's driven by the audience. What do the audience want? What will they watch? That kind of thing. So if you know what your audience will stand, but then also if you know what will happen within your organisation, and there's a whole kind of stage before that, which is, are my journalists ready for this? Do we have the systems in place, and not just the technology, and we've talked a lot about the technology today, and you need to make sure your content management systems can handle that, but are your journalists of the right mindset? And that's not critical of them, because actually they've been print journalists for, some of them, 35 years, or print photographers, and they've been very good at their job, and they've crafted it to a fine art, and now they're being expected to do something completely different. You kind of have to take a step back and give people space to accept that and deal with that, and so that's got to be part of the strategy. So it's the kind of internal audience. As an executive, you've got to sell it to the people who are going to do it, as well as the people who are going to watch it. And I think some organisations are doing the kind of one or the other. They're perhaps maybe not doing both. And if they are doing one, it's usually trying to understand who the audience is, not because they care about the audience, because they want to know who they can sell advertising to. So.
Yeah, and you talked about the difference between being able to do video and video literacy. Can you maybe explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, I think being able to do video, so like you guys, being able to hold cameras and operate cameras, is good technical skills, but visual literacy, and you could take visual literacy from a print design point of view, so knowing how big a picture needs to be compared to a headline, compared to body text, so that the page has balance and it works. All of that follows through to doing video or still images or whatever it may be, and if it's delivered online alongside all of the other page furniture and page elements that are on a website. So, it's not just about being able to know what makes a good video piece. So, being able to shoot a sequence and doing an interview, then maybe doing a reverse, and all of the kind of mechanics of shooting video. That's a video literacy. Visual literacy is kind of something different, I think. It's about understanding how pictures work together, how sound and pictures work together, and how that picture might work next to a bit of text or a graphic or whatever it may be. So I think it's probably more learning how to tell stories not just in text. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sort of visual storytelling.
Yes. Do you find that a lot with your students also? I know there's some talk about, is it better to be working with really older storytellers or younger people that are more adept with technology? How do you find...
I don't think there's an age thing in
No.
that. I honestly don't. I think the only thing that sets that apart is when you're young and starting in journalism. The thing that fires you up about journalism is usually a particular type. So you'll see TV and you think, yeah, that's exciting, I want to be on TV. Or you'll engage with radio and you'll like radio. Or you'll see print articles and you'll read the newspaper or a magazine and that's what you'll want to do. So if that's the thing that wants you to get into journalism, then that's what you're going to focus all your attention on. And you need to that will get you in, and then you say, okay, I'm here now. Now what else do I do?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's necessarily that young people don't know how to tell stories. It's just that actually give them a chance. You're just finding your feet in an industry that's kind of changing anyway. So it's making that. I think you've got a lot of other things to think about if you're a young person in journalism, over and above. Are there 150 different ways to tell a story. You know, you kind of got to cut your teeth a little bit.
Yeah. And what do you think about this idea of video kind of being a little bit of a linear platform on a non-linear, you know, people coming from print and web background, and then video being, I mean, do you think these things, how do you see them going together?
I think it is a linear medium, you know, but I prefer to think of it as a kind of visceral medium. So, you know, as a storyteller, it doesn't matter whether you use print or whatever, you have to tell a once upon a time there were three bears right to the very end when Goldilocks gets eaten. That's the story you have to tell. And you either tell that, you know, as a print journalist with a well-crafted intro that says, you know, today Goldilocks and the three bears, until the very end when it, and, you know, police investigation ensues into Goldilocks being mauled. If you're a video journalist, then you craft that in the same way. You know, there has to be a beginning, a middle, and end of the story. What changes going online is not necessarily the way you craft the story, because people still want the story. Eventually, when they sit down, wherever they're sitting in front of a TV, listening to the radio, in front of the web, they want the beginning, middle, and end. It's how they get through the story. So do they do the beginning in text, the middle in video, and the end in text again? Maybe they could do. The thing that drives that is that the middle is best told. As a, you know, because you could describe somebody being mauled by a bear, but video of somebody being mauled by a bear, Goldilocks being eaten, is what you want. You know? So I think video is a linear medium, but storytelling is linear. Consumption is different. You know, so I think if you can present good once upon a time stories on the web, but give people the option to consume that information how they want, that's the key. So it doesn't matter that video is linear. It always will be. But if it's appropriate for the story, then go for it.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you do some training with, was it Trinity?
Johnston Press.
Okay, yeah.
The big one.
Can you maybe talk a little bit about how that goes when you're bringing people in and coming from print to train for?
Yeah, it's without fail, they're very engaged, massively excited by it. Very specifically, the training that I do is because Johnston Press invested in a very particular camera. It's the Sony A1E. It's a very small HDV camera, and they invested in Avid edit suites. That was the decision that they took. That would be their baseline production thing. Now, obviously, using a camera, something very point and shoot, even something as relatively expensive as the Sony, you can get that fairly quickly. Avid, as an editing platform, is something a little bit more difficult. So over the 2 days, what we spend time doing is getting them used to the camera, but more specifically kind of demystifying some of the edit suite side of things. So that training I do is very specific. What's nice about it is that it puts me in contact with, you know, junior reporters, long-time served journalists, editors, sub-editors, photographers, the whole range of people who are engaging in it, and that's where you hear the kind of frontline stories about how does this work, and they're asking the same questions that everybody else is. How can I make this work? How do I find time to do this kind of thing? You know, it's kind of scary type stuff, you know, and I've got all of this other stuff to do as well. So that it works on a number of levels for me. One, you know, because it's nice to be able to make to touch base with those people, but two, because you get to play with some kit as well, which is always nice, and you get to make things. Yeah. Which is what we're all in it for, isn't it?
Yeah. Very good. I think that's it.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Thank you very much.